Hello, welcome back to Brandon Sushi LIVENODING. In this episode, we're gonna take a look at kind of like a simple recipe that you can use in SquareChalk to kind of colorize triangulated polygon, and you can end up with some kind of simple art, or maybe like some kind of vapor art. So yeah, the easiest way is to start with a 2D one. You can use a random vector, and let's save this as trees and we basically we want to create a random vector, and then let's use a B mesh right away. So random vector, right? And we want to flatten the randomness. Use a reroute or rewire, and use a scalar 0 on the Z, so you get a flat points there. You can randomize this further, so you get something that's more spread. Actually, put this the other way around. Now you can use the Delaunay triangulations to get the polygon for our vertices. So we get that. And this guy, if you look at using the wire, it's just something like this. It's pretty basic. And now we want to colorize the triangle. That should be pretty easy. We can use the vertex color, and we want to make sure we are using cycles render. And since we already have this cool triangulations, we just plug this guy in. And for the materials, we just need to assign attribute SV call. So this guy is colorizing the face with a single color already. This guy become emission. So if you look at the material, okay, it is working. And the next thing we want to do is to use this guy right here, loop. So vertices, we know vertices already. If we use like a color in, and use HSV, use random value, and simply plug this into the hue, plug this into this guy. Okay, this is Blender 2.79, that's kind of closer to 2.8. This means it's using alpha, so we need to turn on alpha. So yeah, we can give a random value for each vertices. This is also kind of creating this kind of art, vapor art, but you can also use the loop. And for the loop, you actually need more numbers. So it's kind of like I believe this is 3 times the number of the vertices. So if you use least length and get the total number of the vertices, so this 150, you should multiply that. If we just use this for the size, it's giving this, but if we multiply this by 3 and use a float to integer, we should get the number. Okay, actually maybe not 3, maybe 4. Oh, there's actually more. Okay, let's see. Okay, that's interesting. Well, you need a number, but anyway, doesn't matter for now. You just give it like a bunch of random numbers. Just make sure it's a lot more than your mesh. Okay, so we have that, and we can randomize, and we have this 2D art or some sort. So that's one. If you this is like the 2D one, so you can actually turn it into 3D. So if instead of using this Delaunay 2D, we can use something called hull, so convex hull. So with our random vertices, we can create a convex hull. Let's try and use a different beam mesh, and we're gonna be using similar setup. So vertices and polygon, this guy is gonna be 3D, but it should be triangulated as well. And we can move this to the side, and we just need to use the same material. There you go. So this guy, turn off the wire. So that's kind of neat. And we can also randomize, change the random number, change this guy, the amplitude. There's a lot of things you can do. You can also kind of like remove double. Sometimes also if you want to further play around with this idea, you can use the opposite. You kind of like start with something like the monkey, for example. The monkey is nice and quad. Everything is four-sided polygon. But if you use the opposite, decimate, you use decimate and turn on triangulate, you kind of decimating Suzanne, and then yeah, you get kind of nice and triangulated Suzanne. And this one you can use the same setup for Suzanne. So let's try that actually. So Suzanne, let's call this a vapor heart. Objects in, get Suzanne, pause, turn on pause because we are using decimate, and this is still something that you can control. And the output is going to be the same. So 1, 2, 3, duplicate it. Suzanne goes in, give it a random color. Like I said, you need to have a number. So there you go. This is also interesting. It's not as interesting if you have quad, but as a triangle, somehow our brain is kind of like, okay, we like that. You know, it's simpler. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You can actually further play around with this idea, like instead of just making this, you can kind of duplicate these objects many times and then kind of creating random for each generations. This slightly just a little bit more complicated, but I'll show you a hint. So if you have a line here and you plug it into the matrix, you can create multiple, right? And then for each of these objects, you can just colorize them. That's also kind of interesting. Get selection, assign the same material, and then you create randomness for each one of these by the seed. So that's slightly more elaborate. You see how each one of them is different? And then to be a little bit even crazier, you can go back and randomize the seed here. And you're generating basically lots of vaporware art. select all, assign the same material. Actually, just do it here. Yep, that's pretty much it actually. It's actually nicer with the edge, so keep the edge. There you go. Hopefully you find this useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.